A decision that Xbox made years ago is finally paying off. What is up, y'all? I'm Ray, and this is my channel, Xbox Ready, where we get on and we talk about Xbox stuff. The latest news, rumors, games, accessories, pretty much anything I want to talk about as long as it's about Xbox in some way. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about how the gaming industry, fans of gaming, should be thanking Xbox. So 5 years ago, Microsoft released the Xbox Series X and S. They marketed the Series X as the world's most powerful console. This is gonna be crazy, there's so much power in this thing. And usually that type of marketing in any other generation is a home run. If you buy this console, you're gonna have some of the most mind-blowing, graphically awesome games right in your living room. That's how it's been in pretty much every other era. Strangely enough though, for most of Gen 9, the Series S, the Series X's little brother actually proved to be a lot more popular amongst fans, or more popular than Xbox might have anticipated. There's been a lot of debate on why this is. Oh, the Series S, it was actually in stock during the great console shortage of 2020 to 2022 almost. Others will obviously point to the cheaper price point. But whatever the reason, some estimates place the Series S as accounting for almost 75% of all Xbox hardware sales. That is until recently when the Series X began to pull a little bit closer and make it more of a 50-50 split. But I would say even a 50-50 split is still pretty mind-blowing, considering all of the hate that the Series S has gotten over the years. And this is an issue that we've talked about the channel before, especially when it relates to Xbox Game Pass. These things that Microsoft offers that seem to resonate with customers, but that developers hate, that CEOs hate. Over the years, so many people have talked down on the Xbox Series S and S. Rocksteady developer calls the Series S a potato, an albatross around the neck of developers. Game Science saying that, oh man, it sucks developing for the Series S, it's why we couldn't ship an Xbox version of our game. There are whole accounts dedicated to claiming that the Series S held back this entire generation of gaming. If it wasn't for the Series S, Microsoft would have been on the moon at this point. But what if I told you the Series S is exactly what the gaming industry needs, what fans of gaming need? That is actually making gaming better. You see, on the other side of people complaining about the Series S, blaming it for all of gaming's problems, there's actually a lot of other people that think the Series S is pretty cool. And even when some developers say yes, it was a challenge, they ultimately end up going on to say that it helped all other versions of their games, allowed them to make a better product for everyone. Example number one, Larian Studios. I would say this is one of the most controversial times to be a fan of the Series S or a Series S owner, because famously the Series S was the reason why Baldur's Gate 3 didn't have an Xbox version when it finally came to consoles. The Series S technically was the reason why Baldur's Gate 3 was an accidental PlayStation 5 exclusive, because Larian was like, we can't find a way to get split screen co-op working on the Series S. And Xbox famously has this parity clause saying that studios and publishers that want to publish their game on Xbox, put their game on Xbox, they have to have all of the same gameplay features on the Series S that are on the X. Ultimately, Microsoft changed their minds. They were like, you know what? Baldur's Gate 3, surprisingly popular, this freaky ass game where you can sleep with a bear. Let's go ahead and make an exception for them so we can finally get the game onto the Xbox platform. And Larian Studios, with that extra time, they did not disappoint, because not only did they bring the game on over to Xbox consoles, split screen co-op eventually came to the Series S. And not only that, they said that optimizing the game for the Series S provided a noticeable performance boost for all other versions of the game on every platform. Example number two, Warhorse Studios, who initially came out and said, yeah, we had to make Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 a little bit smaller in scale to accommodate the Series S. And you could just imagine the shitstorm that followed on the internet, the discourse, oh, Series S holding back gaming, Series S killed my mom. But then after the game's release, PR manager Sir Toby went on the Iron Lords podcast and said, hey, actually, our work in optimizing our game for the Series S, they realized, whoa, we can do a lot more in terms of optimizing the other versions of our games, including PlayStation 5. And now DICE is saying that the Series S is gonna eventually help out all versions of Battlefield 6, one of the most anticipated games of 2025, did absolute numbers during all the beta weekends. The technical director for Battlefield 6 said, I will say that biggest thing we did that was a challenge for us was memory. Xbox Series S does have less memory than even our mid-spec PC. And so there was a point, I want to say 6 to 12 months ago, where we kind of realized that a lot of our levels were crashing on the Series S. But after reviewing code and optimizing specific aspects of Battlefield 6, the whole game became better and more stable, and all players are going to get that experience, benefit from that work. Now, I don't need to tell you how important game optimization is in this day and age specifically. An age where publishers and studios will put out a game and it runs like crap, even on some of the beefiest rigs, even on the world's most powerful console, the Series X. Yes, I will not deny that it seems consistently that the Series S is a challenge. It is a pain in the ass for developers to work with. But I find it interesting that the narrative, the spin on these stories is always when the Series S sucks and not the Series S is helping all of us out. That its existence is literally benefiting everyone no matter what platform you're on. And Battlefield 6 especially is a good win for the Series S. The game proved massively popular over those beta weekends like I mentioned earlier, and there was no one online saying, oh, this feels like a last-gen game. Oh, it feels like the Series S is holding this back. People are just like, nah, this is awesome. I'm having a good time. And DICE has confirmed that it's going to run at 60 FPS at launch on Series S consoles. You don't really see that a lot, so it's cool to see that kind of frame rate support for one of the most popular games of the year. And while yes, the Series S has provided some challenges, lots of ups and downs, but in a weird way, it's prepared Xbox for the future, especially this new one that they're pivoting towards, where we're about to see a shit ton of Xbox consoles, some not even made by Microsoft. The fact that Xbox Game Studios has that experience optimizing and making sure their games run on a lower end bit of hardware like the Series S means that they're better prepared to make games for, I don't know, a handheld or whatever other crazy console that Microsoft puts out. I know that as quote-unquote hardcore gamers, we love top-of-the-line rigs, super powerful consoles, awesome performance, graphics, all of that. But we also have to acknowledge that a lot of people don't really give a damn about that. I mean, just look at Nintendo, look at the Switch 2. Look at how some of the third-party games are performing over there, and people don't give a damn. The Switch 2 and something like the Series S, those are consoles that people are gonna want, especially going into this future where we're about to see this crazy spike in gaming hardware pricing. There's been this doomsday narrative going around that I've seen a few times where it's like, why are people even gonna bother optimizing their game, making sure it runs on something like the Series S? Money. Duh. Why would they even bother putting it on the Switch 2? Like games like Hogwarts Legacy, Borderlands 4, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Overwatch 2. Because companies want to put their game where people are going to buy them. Plain and simple. It also seems like Xbox is working towards this more like generalized gaming experience with the Xbox full screen experience. So if they're going to go through all the trouble of making this dashboard experience that's supposed to be unified across all aspects of the ecosystem, PC, console, cloud, you better believe that's also going to apply to game performance as well, which they're now really good at because they've been working with the Series S for 5-6 years. Bottom line, I refuse to live in this world where video games are gatekept behind $500 minimum bits of hardware. And again, those prices are sure as hell gonna go up heading into next generation. Don't get me wrong, Xbox has done a lot of questionable shit this generation. I've talked plenty about that stuff, but making the Series S a budget-friendly console that makes gaming more accessible to a bunch more people, that's not one of those mistakes. And the idea ended up being so good that it looks like other people are gonna copy them. There's apparently a rumored PS6 S-type console on the way, specifically for the reason of combating rising console costs. Well, guess what? Xbox has already been playing that game for the past 5 years. Here's where it starts to fall apart though, and I'm getting a little worried about this as we inch closer to October 16th, which is when the Xbox Ally is supposed to come out. Making gaming accessible, making this budget-friendly console that's easy on your wallet, that all starts to fall apart if they can't maintain that low price point. I saw a Series S listed at over $400 the other day. That's disgusting. Listen, I love the Series S. That's the whole point of this video. But damn it, I am not, no way in hell I am paying over $400 for that console. That is crazy. I got mine for $250. $250, and that's a steal for what it's able to achieve. If you can get it cheaper, even better. $300, that's fair. Yeah, sure, you could get a better deal, but $400? Hell no. How is Microsoft planning to keep the costs down? I'm sure they're going to release some sort of expensive, top-of-the-line PC console hybrid next generation, but it would be a huge bummer after they did all of this work on the Series S if they put out the budget-friendly console and it was closer to like $400, $500. More in line with like a digital PS5 this generation. Xbox has a really strong pitch of being the consumer-friendly platform. Game Pass giving you tons of games for a low monthly fee. Consoles like the Series S, don't even want to buy a console, no problem, play the games through the cloud. But if those hardware costs continue to rise, starting with the Xbox Ally, all of that goes out the window. At the end of the day though, Xbox is a business, they gotta make money. How they're gonna balance pleasing the shareholders versus pleasing their customers, keeping things cheap for them, that's going to be something that we have to keep an eye on. At the end of the day, I think the Series S has gotten way too much hate over the years, especially when there's a lot of lower end bits of hardware that studios still make games for. Low end PCs, Steam Decks, the Nintendo Switch. I mean, so many other culprits of holding back gaming. I don't know why the Series S has always been at the forefront. Maybe it's that parity clause. Maybe it's a lack of transparency on Xbox's part. Because we don't really know how games are developed. Fans, I mean, we have a general idea, but we don't really know the process. So with our limited knowledge, if a game comes out, especially from an Xbox first-party studios, and it runs like doggy doo-doo, the easiest thing that people have to blame is the Series S. But I hope going into the future, especially as we head into next generation and look back on Gen 9, history looks kinder on the Series S. Anyways, guys, that's all the Xbox stuff I have to talk about today. Thanks so much for joining me for another edition of Xbox Ready. If you made it this far into the video, consider subscribing. Please, please. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.